Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In our previous videos, we explored the Lightning Invoker Monk leveling build, covering strategies for both early and late stages of progression. However, once we hit the endgame, we had to make some significant adjustments and decisions to optimize the build for efficient map clearing. The Monk, and particularly the Invoker Monk, has become one of the most popular and widely played classes in the game, and because of that, there are a lot of great builds that you can choose from, and we will cover all of them. Today though, we're diving deep into one of the standout builds, the Ice Strike Monk. This build delivers exceptional damage and incredible map clearing potential. One of the most enjoyable aspects of the Ice Strike build is its passive power charge generation and minimal use of triggering abilities, keeping the gameplay dynamic and fun at all times. A great build for both leveling and high-end game content. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to master this build, core abilities and how to use them effectively, support gems to pair for maximum synergy, gear stats to prioritize for optimal performance, passive skill tree setup, and of course, the ideal rotation. If you have any questions or want to share your thoughts, drop a comment down below, and if you find this guide helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Path of Exile 2 builds and guides. With that said, let's get started. Okay, so the core concept behind the Ice Strike build is simplicity and efficiency. You minimize the number of abilities you need to manage while maintaining exceptional damage output and a fast, fluid pace. Whether you're clearing maps, leveling up, or tackling tougher content, this build ensures you dominate everything in front of you with minimal effort. The highlight of this build is its ability to continuously jump from mob to mob while passively generating power charges, enabling you to obliterate mobs and bosses with ease. You'll be running with just 4 abilities: Ice Strike, Charge Staff, Shattering Palm, and Tempest Bell. Ice Strike is your primary ability that you will spam. It's a melee and AoE attack that strikes 3 times, with a final hit dealing significantly increased damage. It also converts 80% of your physical damage into cold damage, making it highly effective for this build. Ice Strike takes the place of your standard Quarterstaff attack or Tempest Flurry if you are using them. The support gems you want to run on Ice Strike are Martial Tempo, of course, for some extra attack speed, Cold Infusion for 25% extra cold damage, and Heft. Since Ice Strike converts physical damage to cold damage, an extra 30% physical damage will be significant. In case you haven't found a level 3 support gem, you can replace Heft with Primal Armament for some extra 25% elemental damage. If you have 4 slots available, then Heft should be the 4th support gem. Charge Staff serves as the primary power charge spender in this build. By consuming your power charges with Charge Staff, you significantly enhance the effectiveness of Ice Strike, making it both faster and more powerful. Thanks to a combination of aura buffs and key passive skill nodes, which we'll explore in detail shortly, power charge generation is entirely passive and highly frequent. This means you won't need to worry about manual charge management. They'll be ready when you need them. To maximize your uptime, simply ensure that you use Charge Staff at least once every 30 seconds to refresh its duration, maintaining an 100% uptime and consistently empowering your Ice Strike for peak performance. The support gems you want to run with Charge Staff are Persistence, of course, for 40% more duration, Ice Bite, which provides you with an extra 35% cold damage on your spells when you freeze enemies, and Maim for extra CC. Shattering Palm is your second most usability after Ice Strike, offering both mobility and damage. This spell allows you to dash directly to the enemy, unleashing a cold wave blast that coats all nearby foes in shards of ice. The real power of Shattering Palm lies in its synergy. When you deal enough damage to these enemies, the shards of ice explode, dealing additional AoE damage. This makes it incredibly effective for taking out clustered groups or softening up tougher enemies. Beyond its damage potential, Shattering Palm is a fantastic utility skill. Use it to swiftly leap between enemy packs, ensuring constant engagement, or to escape dangerous situations when needed. The support gems you want on Shattering Palm are Glaciation for additional 50% freeze buildup and Blind for extra CC. The 4th and final active ability in this build is of course Tempest Bell. This skill is mostly situational, reserved primarily for bosses or tougher rare mobs that require an extra punch. To use Tempest Bell, you need to accumulate 4 combo points, which is very easy with our attack speed. Simply land 1 or 2 Ice Strikes and you'll have enough points to deploy the bell. When placed, Tempest Bell deals an initial burst of damage upon impact, and every hit on the bell resonates outward, unleashing massive AoE damage. The support gems on the bell are Overabundance, which increases the number of bells that you can have at the same time to 2, Super Critical for additional crit, and Heavy Swing for more physical damage if you have a 3rd slot. The next 5 abilities in this build are all auras and buffs, each playing a crucial role. Let's start with the most important one, Combat Frenzy. This aura, in combination with a specific node in our tree called Resonance, which is right here, is the key to passively generating power charges. By itself, Combat Frenzy grants you frenzy charges whenever you freeze, electrocute, or pin enemies. Thanks to this build's exceptional freeze potential, you'll be generating frenzy charges at an incredible rate. Now, here's where the magic happens. When you allocate the Resonance node, all those frenzy charges are converted into power charges. This synergy is the backbone of the build, ensuring a constant supply of power charges to keep your charge staff at an 100% uptime. The support gems you want on Combat Frenzy are Profusion for a 50% chance of an additional charge, and Clarity for 30% mana regeneration rate. The Ice Strike build can be a little bit heavy on the mana part, and that's why we have a few things here and there to help out with our mana consumption, with Clarity support gem being one of them. The second most important aura in this build is Herald of Ice, which provides you with further AoE damage, as shattering enemies with attacks will cause even more icy explosions, dealing further damage to anything around it. The support gems for Herald of Ice are Cold Mastery for 1 additional level on cold skills, Elemental Focus for extra elemental damage, and or Magnified Effect for a larger radius in case you don't have a level 3 gem. Up to this point, the build is incredibly powerful, focusing heavily on cold and elemental damage to decimate your enemies. However, it's essential for us to ensure that we're defensively strong as well. That's where the 3 additional auras come into play: Ghost Dance, Grim Feast, and Wind Dancer. Depending on your current stage of the game and the amount of spirit you've accumulated, you may or may not be able to run all 3 of these auras at once. To maximize your spirit, focus on 2 main methods. 1. Defeating the side bosses that give you permanent spirit in Acts 1, 2, and 3 on both normal and cruel difficulty. And 2. The Invoker Ascendancy node called Lead Me Through Grace. This passive node grants you 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield and 15 evasion rating on your chest armor. The higher the stats on your chest piece, the more spirit you'll gain, allowing you to sustain more auras. So the auras that we mentioned are Ghost Dance, which periodically generates shrouds that convert into energy shield when you're hit, adding a reliable layer of mitigation. The support gems on it are Fast Forward to refresh cooldowns faster, and Vitality for passive regeneration. Wind Dancer grants stacks of evasion that are consumed when you're hit, mitigating damage and knocking enemies back. For support gems, we have Lockdown and Pin, and Grim Feast, which gives you a chance to find Grim Remnants, small white orbs dropped by slain mobs. Picking them up restores Energy Shield, which can overflow beyond your maximum energy shield cap. The support gem for Grim Feast is Cannibalism, which provides bonus life per kill. Personally, I went for Grim Feast and Ghost Dance as my first 2 spirit spenders, adding Wind Dancer later on. Okay, so that covers all the abilities that we need for this build to work. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the skill tree. The ascendancy that we want is of course Invoker, with Sunder My Enemies and Lead Me Through Grace as our first 2 options. For the future, I'm the Blizzard and I Shall Rage for Unbound Avatar is a very solid option. For the normal tree, however, the most important node that we need is Resonance, which makes this build even possible. But to tie everything together and make this build work, we want to focus on 3 main stats. We want attack speed, attack damage, and crit as much as possible, while also taking a few nodes that help with power charge maintenance, mana regeneration, freeze buildup, and of course defensives. Starting things off with Flow Like Water into Crashing Wave and Moment of Truth. We then want to skip conservative casting for now and simply work our way to Resonance. Then we can grab True Strike for the Jugular and Deep Trance. From there, we work our way down to get Killer Instinct and Tenfold attacks. With those out of the way, our next priority is to get Overflowing Power for extra power charges, and then go for Martial Artistry, Whirling Assault, and One with the River. Now, our next priority is Coming Calamity before making our way down the middle to grab Falcon Technique for some additional attack speed, and enhance reflexes and bestial skin for our defensives. At this point, we have a very solid tree, and it depends on your gear and performance what you might need next. So following my personal path might not be as effective. What you can do is the following. If you have mana issues, you can go back and grab conservative casting. If you find yourself a little bit squishy, you can make your way to Subterfuge Mask, and or grab Spectral Ward. If none of those two apply, then you can go back and grab Essence of the Mountain before making your way down to Lust for Power and Blinding Strike. Once I had all of those, then I made my way down to Reaching Strike and Rapid Strike. For all the jeweled sockets that we have, we can add cold damage, elemental, or physical damage for more damage output. At this point in the tree, you're well into endgame, and this build provides you with all the necessary attributes to completely dominate high tier maps. But something which is equally as important is the gear. The weapon stat that you want to prioritize is definitely as high physical damage as possible. Elemental or cold damage is also a plus. Same is applied to all other gear pieces with secondary stats like mana regeneration, freeze buildup, and any resistances you can get. For your chest piece, like we said before, you want to focus on getting as much evasion rating and energy shield as possible, as those stats will be converted to spirit, resulting in being able to activate more auras. If you have the currency to spend, then the ring called Call of the Brotherhood is insanely good for this build, as it gives you really good resistances, mana regeneration, freeze buildup, and much more. Additional item you can buy for a fairly cheap price is the Power Treads, which give critical damage bonus per power charge you have. Lastly, let's take a look at the rotation. Initially, when you engage a pack of mobs, you want to ideally engage with Shattering Palm, closing the gap and spreading icicles to everything, followed up by spamming Ice Strike on them. Engaging a pack of mobs with Shattering Palm and then using Ice Strike will most likely one-shot them all. And after a few hits, you will notice that you already have power charges. Even if you have 2 or 3 of them, you want to use them for your first charge staff, so you can enhance your Ice Strike and clear faster. With your first charge staff, you will then wait for maximum power charges generated and simply refresh the charge staff every 30 to 40 seconds. For bosses, you can engage in the same way and simply spam Ice Strike until you have 3 or more charges. Simply use charge staff and drop the bell to completely destroy the boss. If you added overabundance on your Tempest Bell, then you can drop multiple. Bosses and mobs that stay alive long enough will also be frozen at some point, which allows you to replace your bell and burst them down once again. And that's the fully detailed Ice Strike Monk build for any Path of Exile 2 content, from leveling all the way to high endgame. I've experimented with multiple Monk builds, and the Ice Strike is definitely one of the most fun and powerful builds that I've tried. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more Path of Exile 2 class guides and content. Don't forget to comment down below if you have any questions or thoughts regarding this build, and as always, thank you all for the amazing support. I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Peace.